Good morning, all of you. So, as we come to know that at present we are studying baking soda. In last class, I have been taught you what is baking soda and what is the production of baking soda, and as well as the properties of baking soda. Is it yes, guys?
Yes, sir.
You know. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
So now, in our today's class, we will see what is the uses of baking soda, and after that, we'll go next chemical compound called as bleaching powder. What is that? Bleaching powder.
Bleaching powder.
Now let us come to here. We will see first now what is the uses of baking soda. What is the chemical formula of baking soda? Can anybody please?
NaHCO3.
NaHCO3.
NaHCO3. So means in the sense of what we should call this baking soda is called as
Sodium bicarbonate or
Sodium
sodium
hydrogen carbonate.
Sodium hydrogen
bicarbonate or
carbonate.
hydrogen carbonate.
sodium hydrogen carbonate. Also we can call it as what we should call
Sodium bicarbonate.
sodium bicarbonate. Is it yes? Sodium bicarbonate. So now, if you'll come to the production method of this one, so what is the chemical reaction which is production of this one? So NaCl is reacting with what? Ammonia plus
Ammonia.
water.
Carbon dioxide.
water plus carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
NaCO3
NaHCO3
plus
NH4Cl.
carbonate.
4Cl.
NH4Cl, ammonium chloride. Is it yes? NH4. So this is the reaction. So this ammonium hydroxide is sparingly soluble in water, and it is coming in the form of water. In the form of solid. Is it yes or no? PPT means in the sense of solid. Is it yes, guys? Now, it will start, if it comes to the properties, this is what the chemical reaction, properties. So, sodium hydrogen carbonate consists of what? White crystals which are less soluble in water. Next, and if we take here, it is a non-corrosive base and it is alkaline in nature. So alkaline in nature means it will convert it to which acid to which acid? Which litmus to which litmus?
Red litmus to blue litmus.
And if you see action of heat, if you heat either a solid sodium hydrogen carbonate or a liquid sodium hydrogen carbonate, whatever it is, solution, then it will start decomposing, thermal decomposition, and it will give you what? Sodium carbonate, NaH.
Sodium carbonate.
It may be a solid or maybe a aqueous solution. If you start heating,
Na2CO3.
yeah, it will give you Na2CO3, sodium carbonate plus
Plus carbon dioxide
plus water.
Carbon dioxide plus water.
decomposition or decomposition reaction. These are properties. So now we are using this baking soda in where in cooking reaction. Is it yes or no? So this one we are using during cooking of food because this will give you what? This will give you carbon dioxide gas on heating, and we can use it as a what? It is the constituent of baking powder. Understand, Ra? Baking powder. What we can see to aerate the dough, to make the dough swelling, let's make it ready for the preparation of cakes or dosa, etc., etc. Making effervescent drinks. What is that?
Effervescent drinks.
So till there we have been studying. Now, in our today's class, we are going to study the next concept is called as, what is that?
Uses of baking soda.
Uses of baking soda. So remember here, like a minimum 10 to 20 number of MCQs will come in this uses only. So be very careful and you have to note it down everything clearly. So uses of baking soda. Also we can say chemical formula. What is the chemical formula?
HCO3.
NaHCO3. Now, the first one is, as we have been studied in the properties, what is the second property? Can you able to read anybody? Akshaya, Varshini, what is the second property?
It is a mild, non-corrosive base.
Mildly alkaline in nature. It is a non-corrosive base, mildly alkaline in nature. Is it yes or no? So that is why it is a basic in nature. So we can use, this is the one of the most important antacid. Have you remembered we have two antacids? One is what? One is milk of
Magnesium
second
Mg.
sodium.
Milk of magnesium and baking soda.
That's all. That is the first point. So sodium hydrogen carbonate, it is used as a
Antacid.
acidity of the stomach. That is what you have to remember. So it is first point. It is used as an antacid or plus acid, antacid in medicine. Medicine to remove water. Medicine to remove what? To remove acidity. Acidity of the stomach. To remove acidity of the stomach. That is what to remember. Now, sir, why, sir? Why it is you are using reason? What is the reason, Pranav? What is the reason, Pranav? Call to absentees are till now they are not regular.
So it can neutralize the
Neutralize
What
it,
is the reason behind it? Reason is what?
because in stomach hydrochloric acid will be
Yes,
produced.
it is
To neutralize it, we
alkaline.
Yes, we neutralize with acid.
being alkaline can neutralize
It will react, it will neutralizes the excess acid present in the stomach and relieves indigestion. Do you understand it? Being alkaline neutralizes. What is that? Neutralizes. Yes, excess acid in stomach release indigestion. That is the thing. Please note it up. This is the first use or application of sodium hydrogen carbonate. Now, second one. So sodium hydrogen carbonate properties. Observe very carefully. So it was properties, action of heat. What is the action of heat? Can you able to say what is the products are coming? What the products are coming? Tell me, guys. What is the products are coming?
Oxide water.
Yeah.
Sir, sodium carbonate, water, carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, water.
Carbon dioxide.
All the water, correct? So
Water.
the carbon dioxide gas which is coming from this, we are using is in what? It is the major one of the constituent of baking powder. Is it yes? And
Baking
also
powder.
second
Baking powder.
is the second one. So sodium hydrogen carbonate is used in making baking powder, in making cakes, breads, etc., etc. Do you understand, guys? That is the second one, right? It is here only this point. If you'll understand, Rab, then you will be able to get everything I'm saying, because most important and very, very more number of MCQs will come. It is used in making baking powder. Making what? Making baking powder. Used in making what? Used in making. What is that, guys? Used in making what? Making cakes, bread, etc. Do you understand, Ra? Everything. So now, Sir, what is this baking powder? This is what our question. So this is also very, very important. So actually, baking soda is a compound or mixture. Anybody? Is it a compound or mixture? Kevin, Nitinath, Prahasini, Tarani. Is it a compound or mixture? Baking powder illa, baking soda is a mixture or compound. Sodium hydrogen carbonate, NaHCO3. Is it a compound or mixture? Tell me, Ra. Nobody will answer? Okay. So now, observe very carefully. Baking soda is a compound. Is it yes, guys? Don't know. That also. Yes or no? So, baking soda is a compound. Compound it is. What we should call? It is compound. Now, if it comes to the baking powder is not a compound. It is a mixture of, what is that? It is
Mixture of baking soda.
Mixture of two things. Mixture of baking soda. What is that? Mixture of baking soda. Baking soda and a mild edible acid. Mild and edible acid. What do you mean by edible? Mild and edible acid. What do you mean by edible acid? Anybody? Which is good to consume. Yes or no? Which is good to consume. Good to consume means we can take it also. Nothing will happen to us. That is called as edible. Is it yes or no, guys? Tell me. So edible acid. So that acid also, one more MCQ here. That acid name called as tartaric acid. What is that?
Acid.
Tartaric. So that is you have to remember. So baking powder, two things. It is a mixture of what? Baking powder is a mixture of baking soda and edible acid called as tartaric acid. Tartaric acid. Please note it down, all of you. Yali understand only Dilip and Nitish. Respond. Journey Karthikeyan. Arun Karthikeyan. So many Nortals joined. Jessie is not there. Call her. Padmavarshini, no response. Arun Karthikeyan not there. Inform them. Journey, you also. So that is tartaric acid, we can say. Edible acid. Also we can call it as what? That is only tartaric acid. Yes. So now, when this baking powder mixes with water, so what will happen means, so the present in duff made for baking cake or bread, then the sodium hydrogen carbonate reacts with the tartaric acid to evolve carbon dioxide gas. What is happening now? They evolve what? Carbon dioxide gas. So, whenever this baking soda is dissolved in water, actually it is a mixture. Baking powder is a mixture. So this baking powder mixes with water, understand? Then immediately the sodium hydrogen carbonate, this baking soda reacts with this tartaric acid and it will produce water. It will evolve the carbon dioxide gas. Understand, guys? That is you have to remember it. So, from this I can say baking soda means water. Sorry, baking powder. Baking powder is what? Baking powder is a mixture. Mixture. And we are using for water. What is the use of this one? It is used to make duff. Understand? Duff made for baking cake or bread. Duff made for water.
Cake and breads.
Cakes, bread, etc. So that is you have to remember it. So now, what will happen inside means, so whenever this baking powder mixes with water, what will happen, Ra? Mixes with water. Then what will happen? Then baking soda reacts with whom, Ra? Reacts with whom? The edible acid. What is the name of edible acid, Bhumika?
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid. Tartaric acid reacts with the tartaric acid and understand immediately to evolve what? To evolve which gas? To evolve
Carbon.
dioxide. To evolve carbon dioxide. That is you have to remember it. Now I will teach you the chemical reaction. So observe very carefully. So NaHCO3. What is that? NaHCO3, which is in which state? Aqueous state.
Aqueous state.
What is that? Aqueous state. So now H plus ions, which is also in aqueous state. So this H plus ions from where? Can you able to say? This H plus ions from where? Anybody? Anybody? H plus ions from where?
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
From tartaric acid. Tartaric acid. It is a mineral acid or organic acid? Tartaric acid.
Organic acid.
Organic acid.
Organic acid.
Organic acid.
Used to produce sodium plus, understanding aqueous ion plus carbon dioxide gas plus water it will produce. What will produce? Water it will produce. Now this sodium plus ions, or what is this salt? This salt only we should call as tartarate salt. What we should call? From sodium tartarate salt. The sodium plus ions is called as sodium tartarate salt. Tartarate. Sodium tartarate salt. Purinjicha guys? Yes or no? That is your understand. So this is the chemical reaction. All of you note it down. Second equation. This is the second application or use of baking soda. So baking soda mixed with which acid? Tartaric acid to produce carbon dioxide. Understand Akilar Fan, Arya, Janani? That is Nitinath. Yeah, Nitesh, you also. So that is what you have to remember. So it will produce carbon dioxide, which is used to make duff for making cakes and as well as bread. So now you can see the carbon dioxide gas produced in this reaction, whatever the carbon dioxide gas produced in this reaction, this reaction only, observe all of you, this carbon dioxide gas which is producing here, it will only be trapped, gets trapped in the wet duff and bubbles out slowly. Do you understand, guys? So you can see by night time if you keep the dosa pindas or dosa duff or anything, by morning that it will be start swelling and the size is more increases. Is it yes or no, guys? Respond me. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Because so in between that wet duff, the particles, this carbon dioxide gas will store and it will make it expand. So it will start bubbles out slowly, making the cake to rise and become soft and spongy. To become what? To become soft and spongy. That is what more important. So here you have to note it down. The next point is CO2 produced gets trapped. What is that? Gets trapped in the where? Arvind, gets trapped in the wet duff.
Wet duff.
And what it will do? And bubbles out. And bubbles out slowly, making for what reason? Why we are using this one baking powder? Making very spongy and as well as soft. Is it yes or no? Making the cake. Yes, making the cake or bread to rise.
Soft and spongy.
That is the first one. To rise and as well as what? And becomes what, Ranitanath? Becomes soft.
Soft and spongy.
Sponge. That is you have to remember it. Now, sir, if baking powder is not added in the preparation of cake, then what will happen? That is what I want. Anybody can say? This is what my question. Anybody please answer. Anybody can answer. So now please tell me, sir, if I am not adding the baking powder, no carbon dioxide will produce. Is it yes or no, guys? If no
Will
carbon,
not raise.
Remain acid.
yeah,
Sir.
if no
Will not
carbon
raise and
is
it will not be
produced,
fluffy.
then there is no rise in cake or bread. Understanding? There is no rise in cake or bread, and as well as it will never become soft and
will
as well
never
as
become
spongy. Isn't it? Now,
Yes,
for
sir.
example, sir, I will say you can observe the cake which is prepared in our home and the cake which is prepared in our bakery, which is very nice to eat. Can you able to say?
Bakery.
Bakery, sir.
Because the duff they used to prepare at least 1 day before or 10 15 hours before, and they will add all the required things like baking powder, etc. But in home, if you try, suppose see few times baking powder may be available or not, understand? So it is not. So most of the times if you prepare something, some ingredients we may not follow in our home, so that it may not become soft and it may be not become spongy. Main thing, it won't be rices. Do you understand, guys? Suppose you can take, if you purchase the cupcakes in somewhere in, suppose let me take in Pudukkode Maharaja Bakery, you can see the size is very big, but if you press it, it will become very small because inside the gaps it is occupied by what? Carbon dioxide. Yes or no?
Carbon dioxide.
By carbon dioxide. Now, if there is no baking powder, then what will happen? There is no rise of cake. Is it yes or no, guys? No rise of cake or no rise of bread. So the size will become what? Smaller or larger? The size will become. The size will become quite small. So they will ask you in exam MCQ here. Everybody, what is the MCQ here? If what will happen to the cake or bread if baking powder is not added? What will happen? Tarani, what will happen?
The
Nitina,
dough will not rise and the cake will not be soft
The
and
cake
spongy.
and that will not rise and the carbon dioxide will not
that is what you have to remember. If baking powder is not added in the preparation of cake, the cake or bread obtained will be very hard and quite small in size. What is that? Quite small in size. If baking powder, please write it. If baking powder is not added, if baking powder is not added in the preparation of bread or cake, in the preparation of bread or cake, it will be what? It will be very hard,
and
Very
Wait.
hard and
quite small in size. Understand, guys? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, suppose I don't have a baking powder. Sir, unfortunately a baking powder in my home is over. Suppose you have only baking soda. Then is it possible to use in the preparation of cakes? Anybody? Is it you?
Adding tartaric acid.
Suppose you have a baking powder, you can use because baking soda and tartaric acid is present. So both baking powder and tartaric acid will react. They will produce the carbon dioxide. We want that. Suppose you don't have a tartaric acid, or else you don't have a baking powder. You have only sodium hydrogencarbonate or baking soda. Is it possible to use in preparation of cakes and as well as bread? That is what my question. Is it? Speak, yeah.
No, sir.
No. Why?
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Sir, we can heat the sodium hydrogen carbonate. No, sir.
What I want. This is what you are using the brain. Very good, Nitina. Give me a clap, all of you. So, properties of sodium hydrogen carbonate, if you'll observe, by producing heat, we people can generate carbon dioxide. Is it yes or no, Varshini? Where is your brain, guys? Killer fun and all. Respond, Arvind. We people can produce the carbon dioxide by heating of sodium hydrogen carbonate. Is it yes or no, guys? Yes or no? Nobody is answering. So then why we need? If there is no, if emergency, suppose if there is no baking powder, then we can use baking soda also. So baking soda also. Understand, Kevin? Respond me, Nitish, Dilipan. So we can use baking soda. Baking soda is used in making cakes. Then sodium carbonate form from it by the action of heat. By action of heat during this one, it will be break into water. It will be break into what? It will give you a carbon dioxide. Is it yes or no, guys? Yes, Ra? Yes, but what will happen, sir? If you are heating during baking cakes, during baking, if you heat, it will give you a bitter taste to cake or bread. Taste will changes. What will happen? Taste will changes. Bitter taste will come. So the action of heat during this baking, understanding, which will give you what? Bitter taste. So the advantage of using baking powder is that tartaric acid is present in it and it can react with sodium hydrogen carbonate and it will neutralizes it. That is the reason why we are using baking powder. So if you use sodium hydrogen carbonate, understand guys, all of you should remember, very, very important. So if only, sir, why can't you use? If only NaHCO3 is used in making cakes. What will happen, Ra? Anybody tell me, making cakes, what will happen, Varshini? Padma Varshini? Then what will happen? Then sodium. Also we used to get one more product. What is the reaction? Tell me that, Nitinath, Arvind Ganapati. What will happen if you start heating? It will form. Then sodium carbonate will form. What will form? Sodium
carbonate,
carbonate
carbon dioxide.
form by the what? By the action of heat, and also
Heating,
carbon
sir.
dioxide will form. So carbon dioxide will form, because of that it will be swelling, means the size will increase.
The water.
Soft
Water,
and
sir.
soft. But because of the sodium carbonate which is producing because of action of heat will give you a what? Bitter taste to the cake. What it will give you? What will give you? The action of heat will give you what? Will give you gives bitter taste. Bitter taste. Is it good to eat then? If it is a bitter in taste, is it good to eat?
No, sir.
No.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Reason. Understand? Bitter taste to cake. Or we can say bread. So now one MCQ they will ask you here. Why we are using only baking powder in making of cakes or bread? Why can't we use sodium hydrogen carbonate or baking soda? Down they will give you different reasons. So in that, what is the correct reason, Ra? What is the correct reason, everybody? Nitish? Because
It produces
It
sodium
is an
carbonate
antacid, sir.
and
sodium carbonate. So the decomposition, understand,
Sodium
the
carbonate.
reaction of sodium hydrogen carbonate will produce sodium carbonate and as well as carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide may be useful to make it increases expansion and as well as making spongy and smooth. But the sodium carbonate, which is coming in this reaction by action of this one, will give us a bitter taste to the cake. Do you understand, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? That
Tartaric acid is used to
Yes.
remove that bitter
that is the reason. So that is the reason if we'll add baking powder. Sir, why we should ask? Why we use baking powder, baking soda, baking powder? Why we use baking powder means it contains water. It is a mixture of one more thing. What is that? Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Tartaric acid.
Powder. Baking powder. Observe very carefully. Baking powder is that tartaric acid present in it and it can react with what? Sodium carbonate. What will happen? Sodium carbonate.
sodium carbonate.
Baking powder contains tartaric acid and and it will react with what? It will react with sodium carbonate, and it will, what will happen? It will make the which reaction? Acidic reaction, basic reaction, and neutralization reaction. Tell me, neutralization reaction. Understand? So tartaric acid react with the sodium carbonate and forms neutralized salt. Is it yes or no, guys? Sodium carbonate formed and neutralized. Sodium carbonate formed and make it neutralize it. Now, if both tartaric acid and sodium carbonate will react, we is to get one salt. Neutralize means what will get? What is to get? That one salt will produce. So what is that salt name? Already I have taught you just now. Can you able to say? It will produce as a salt. What is that salt called as?
Sir, sodium tartarate.
Sodium tartarate salt will form by neutralization, which is having a pleasant taste. What is the taste of that one? Neutralizes it and it will form. Understand? It will form a salt name as, what is the salt name? Arun Karthikeyan?
Sodium tartarate.
Sodium tartarate, which is the, what is that? Sodium tartarate salt, which is in, what is the taste? Pleasant taste. Understand? So very good to eat. That is you have to remember. Very good, Akshay. So that is you have to remember it. So that is why we are adding baking powder instead of baking soda. Do you understand, guys? Baking soda, if you use, it will produce a bitter taste. If you use baking powder, it will produce what taste? Pleasant taste. Understand? By neutralizing with the sodium carbonate, and it will form sodium tartarate salt, which is pleasant in taste. Is it clear? Any doubt? Anybody can ask me, please. Yes or no? Yes. Now, here the most important thing, all of you should note it down. Very, 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 very important. Important point I'm going to say you now. All of you should note it down. So here if you observe, as long as, understand, the baking powder is dry, the sodium hydrogen carbonate and tartaric acid present in it do not react with each other. So if they want to react with each other, I already told you, they have been mixed with water. Mixed with what? Mixed with the water. Understand? When they are in dry state, all of you should remember, tartaric acid and sodium hydrogen carbonate, when they are in dry state, no reaction will take place. What will happen? They do not react with each other. Only they will react in the presence of water, or when? In the presence of water. That is the most important thing which you must know it. Please write it. Please write it, all of you. As long as baking powder is dry. Baking powder means it's a mixture of two things. What is that? Baking powder is dry. Baking
Mixture
powder
of baking soda and tartaric acid.
Yes, baking powder is dry. The sodium hydrogen carbonate and tartaric acid present tartaric acid present in it do not react with each other. Only when they will react. They react only in the presence of what?
Of water.
Yes, they react only in the presence of water. Clear, are you guys? Any doubt, anybody? Okay, Irfan. So now you can see this is the first point. Now, second important point you have to remember here. Many times we confuse between baking soda and baking powder. So all of you should remember, baking soda means what? Baking soda means a single compound. What is that? Baking soda means it is a single compound. All of you should remember. Don't get confused in exam. And baking soda is water. Baking soda after powder will come. So baking powder, if you take, it is a mixture of substances. Mixture of two substances. What is that? NaHCO3 and
Tartaric acid.
that is. So no confusion between them. Understand? And sometimes, in some textbook in exam also, sometimes instead of tartaric acid, they will give you citric acid also. Please note it down. What is that? Nobody knows. Citric acid also we can add. Is it okay, guys? So meeting is going to end. Again, log in fastly, please. So edible acid also we can use tartaric acid, or we can use water. We can use citric acid. How to remember it? Please note it down. All of you note it down. I hope you all are noted down. Is it correct? Very good. Right. So this is the second use of sodium hydrogen carbonate or